before diving into quite possibly, in my opinion, the greatest guitar solo of all time, or one of the greatest guitar solos of all time, let's take a look at what the rhythm section, Kevin Moore and John Myung, are doing underneath. So from what you just saw before, I haphazardly put together a Kevin Moore and John Myung type of rhythm track. I'm just going to kind of describe what's going on here. So chord-wise, we're starting off with an F sharp minor 7, okay? And which then goes to an F sharp minor 6. Okay, so this indicates that we are in an F sharp Dorian mode, which we've basically been in for the entire song. The next chord is an E add 9, with John Myung outlining the 9th going to the root. And John Petrucci kind of outlines this as a Lydian type of mode. With that add 9, you can add the major 7, the 9, and the sharp 11 on top, and the 13th as well if you wish, if you're going up through all of the extensions, so that makes sense. The next chord is C sharp minor, with that bass line and all the stops too. So that's a C sharp minor, a Dorian, right? With that natural 6 in there. Coming in next is the B. And then A, B. And then it just comes right down the B major scale to come back to the beginning of the chord progression. Alright, now that B to A type of thing, it creates a very interesting color palette underneath the solo. It's almost bimodal in a way. Two modes kind of going on at the same time, Lydian modes. So since the solo is so long-winded and very fast, I'm going to take it through each section. Regular speed, I'll talk about it for a little bit, and then I'll do a slow-mo version right after that. So all of that goes on top of the F sharp minor 7 and minor 6 chord. Now what's happening here is we're starting with a double stop at the 12th fret, bent. So you're basically bending the B string into the 5th of the chord while keeping the static E on top for the minor 7. Now for this drop down, we're going C sharp, B, F sharp, which is the root, G sharp, the 9, to the E, which is the flat 7. So all of that comports to the F sharp Dorian scale, and especially this part too. So this actually reminds me of a C sharp minor thing, but it's actually in the key of F sharp. Now you can do that. You can play different scales on top of chords that aren't named the same thing and still make it work. So in this case, a C sharp minor scale would actually equal the F sharp Dorian scale. So keep that in mind when you're trying to create a solo. So we're going with that long run, starting on the natural 6 of the F sharp chord, right? Going down to the C sharp minor pentatonic type of thing, but then we're ending on the D sharp with a nice vibrato and a little pinch if you can get that out. That's the natural 6th of the F sharp minor. So that's strictly Dorian. Now, the next part's like this. That arpeggio is repeated all the way down. So it's just a sequence of this. D sharp, E, G sharp, B. So if you take those 4 notes, it's outlining this sort of F sharp minor 11 type of thing, or an E major 7 arpeggio starting on D sharp. If you remember before, during the introduction of the song, when those guitar harmonies came in, one of the harmonies was outlining a D sharp on top of the E chord. So it was an E major 7. So that's allowed in this sort of fusion type of world. The E major 7 over the F sharp is what I'd like to call a big suspension chord, because you have the E flat 7, the 9, the B, which is the sus4, right? So that's like a big sus chord, and then this, the D sharp, which can then be resolved down to the 5th. So here's that first part slow. The next part happens over the E chord like this. So it's kind of funny isolating these parts because that last part's really spastic. It starts spastic and it ends spastic. Let's take a look at what's going on though. So we have the open E string, which is the root, and this harmonic sequence, right? The 5th, 4th, and 3rd fret. Oh, not that one. The 5th, 4th, and 3rd fret harmonics actually outline the E major arpeggio, 1, 3, 5, E, G sharp, and B. So it's perfect. And then we have this series of pull-offs and hammer-ons. So basically all that's happening here is we're outlining the root, 9th, and the 3rd, or the root, 2nd, and 3rd, with the E, F sharp, G. E, F sharp, going down to the 5th, the open B string, and then F sharp, G sharp, to the same open B string. Now that open B is constant throughout the chord. It's the 5th bed. And then we have this. So that's going up to the C sharp. So you're actually bending up to the 6th. And then we bend into the sharp 11, but then resolve it up to the 5th immediately. So you have that A sharp going into the B. And then you're kind of coming down this almost E major pentatonic type of thing, but with that alteration, down to the octave of the sharp 11. And then we end off with this very spastic, crazy sextuplet run starting on the G sharp, 9th fret of the B string. So you're going 9, 11, 12, 9, 11, 12. And then you take that down, switch the pattern, and end on that low B. So it's just an E Lydian scale going up, just like that. And then that resolves into the C sharp minor. So this might possibly be the most straightforward lick in the entire solo, but it's kind of cool the way that it's phrased. So let's check it out. So we're going root, 5th, and octave in this first part. Just real simple in 8th notes. Then we dip back down to the root, and we go like this. So that's kind of like a Chuck Berry type of thing as well. And that's at the 11th and 12th fret of the B and E strings, respectively. Now what you're doing there is you're hitting the A sharp and the E, which is a tritone interval. But on top of the C sharp, that's the natural 6th and the minor 3rd. So that works perfectly with a Dorian mode. So this is C sharp Dorian. Now we're going like this, blues mode, with that flat 5 to 5, and then this minor 7, C sharp minor 7 type of thing. Then this. So that's the root, flat 7, 4, flat 5, and then down the blues scale. Total blues. Don't get it twisted with anything else. And then we do this root 5th octave again. And then you bend the 12th fret up to a C sharp, a whole step, which is the root, so that works perfectly. And then you do this. That's almost like a Jimi Hendrix type of lick. We're getting some taste coming in here. It's not just all shred all the time. There's some tastiness happening, all right? The next section happens on the first B chord of the entire progression. Now this is a little interesting and I'll show you why. So you're going up this, it's almost like a D major type of chord up at the 11th and 12th fret, right? So you have 5, 1, 5 and up to the octave of the 5th. And you're hitting the sharp 4 at the top. Okay? Sharp 4. that indicates a Lydian mode. If you notice what I said before, this is kind of like a bimodal thing because it goes to an A chord in between. That F natural to the B does not belong anywhere in the A chord whatsoever. But since you're playing over a B chord inherently, you're creating another Lydian mode on top of the A. So when you play a B chord on top of an A, you create the Lydian sound with that sharp 4 in the D sharp. And we keep on going here. And that's just a sweep. Now, a lot of people are probably curious about that part. That's just a B major arpeggio going down. Just raking down the strings really quickly. You start off on the 19th fret of the high E, and then from the 14th fret of the high E, which is the F sharp, you just come down 14, 16, 16, 16, and then 14 on the A string. And then we sneak in this little B add 9 arpeggio. Now that's sneaky. That's incredibly sneaky. This part, all that is just a B major scale starting on an A sharp. That's all it is. Now, the A sharp, right? That's the whole thing that I'm trying to talk about here. You can't have an A sharp and an A together, but they managed to do it. They managed to sneak an A chord in when Petrucci is obviously breaking the rules and using an A sharp, which is a flat 2 above. Now this is not anywhere near the Phrygian mode. That was earlier in the song. Here we're dealing with strictly Lydian, but this is like a super hyper Lydian from outer space. I don't know what the hell it is. Here we are in slow motion. Now the next bend indicates the recycling of that chord progression. So we're actually bending up on this B to a C sharp. So we're back on the F sharp, so that C sharp's the 5th. We're all good. Now here we're going. Now that's super jazzy because this is an E and a B. So that's a flat 7 and 11th. Okay? So that's like an E power chord on top of an F sharp. And then we're sliding down to this, which is a C sharp to a G sharp, a C sharp power chord. Now, that's the 5th and the 9th. That makes a little more sense in context with the chord, but when you mix it with this, it just sounds really modern. That's about all I'm going to say about that. And then we hit this. So that's just straight up pentatonic madness, right? Straight up pentatonic madness. This is like a recalling of Metropolis Part 1. A lot of chromaticism going on there. Your flat 7, 6, 5. Blues. More blues. From the root to the flat 7. Blues. And then major 3rd at the bottom. Now the funny part about that major 3rd is that we're playing a minor chord. This next lick has a very wide E Lydian sound. We're going all the way from the open E all the way up to really the 19th fret of the high E string. So we're covering this much range. So check it out. So we're combining a lot of different techniques there. Hammer-ons, pull-offs, finger tapping, the works. And we're starting off with this open E add 9, E, B, F sharp, resolving to the major 3rd. Okay, so stacked 5ths resolving to the actual chord. Then we hit the B on the 4th fret of the G. And then we bend the 5th fret of the B string, which goes from E to F sharp, which is a 2-to-1 resolution. And then we're tapping the 12th fret of the B string and bending it at the same time so that this 12th fret becomes the 14th fret, or a C sharp. So we're doing a double resolution here. E to F sharp, which is 1 to 2 to 1, and then B to C sharp, which is 5 to 6. Okay? That's pretty common in almost all forms of music. And then we go like this. So you're tapping at the 12th fret and bending at the 7th at the exact same time. So, and then you're pulling off to the 6th fret of the E string. Now that's a sharp 11. That's a Lydian mode indication. Okay? An A sharp on a B chord, bam, that's Lydian. And then you're going, so you're resolving up to the 5th or the 7th fret, and then hitting the open B and E strings. Now the open B and E strings work because, very simply put, we're in an E chord. Always remember the chord you're on, and then this stuff doesn't seem so crazy. But this part is crazy, objectively. So we're starting with this sweep pick. Right? Now this is a big stretchy sweep pick. So we're going all the way from the 18th fret on the D string, 16th fret on the G, 14th fret on the B, and the 12th fret of the E for this annoying arpeggio. It's like a slot machine that hasn't been calibrated properly. So basically what we're doing here is we have a G sharp, which is the 3rd, a B, which is the 5th, C sharp, which is the 6th, and an E, which is the root. So this is like a major 6th arpeggio. This reminds me of what those old school jazz heads would play with those crazy stretch chords that it doesn't even sound like it's hard. But this sounds like it's difficult. Now we're doing that. Now on the way back up, we're going to do this. We're doing almost a whole tone thing going from E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, 12, 14, 16, 18. 2 frets at a time. Whole steps. All whole steps. Now when you do whole steps like that, it starts to sound like a dream sequence almost. Right? A little augmented sounding. But it's indicative of the Lydian mode once again. Because we're going E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp. 1, 2, 3, sharp 4. And then we're doing this little tappy thing where we're going all the way up to the 21st fret, which is a C sharp. That's another 6th. That's a 6th up the octave. Okay, so we have this big E major 6th with a sharp 11 arpeggio tapping and legato hammering on and pulling off. It's just getting insane. So let me attempt to play that slow for you. So I hate to sound like an overbearing gym teacher, but we have 2 more sections left. Just 2 more! Climb the rope to the top of the ceiling and a dwarf is going to come out of the tile and cut the thing so you fall to your death. So all of those notes occur over the C sharp Dorian scale, right? Which I've been talking about for a long time throughout the course of this tutorial, right? The Dorian scale has the natural 6th scale degree. So we start off with a bend at the 14th fret of the B string, which are bending up to the 9th scale degree of the C sharp minor chord. Alright, and then you're slowly bending back down, and then as soon as you finish that, you go with that sort of almost karate choppy type of thing on the 11th fret of the B string. So basically what you have to do is you need to hit the 14th fret of the B and then pull off and then just hit the whammy bar like that. So moving away from that, we have a series of pull-offs, moving into another series of pull-offs that include ascending arpeggios. So let's take a look at the first set of pull-offs. So that's the first thing. So we're going from the 12th and the 11th fret of the B string, which is the flat 7 and the natural 6, going to the 5th of the chord, which is on the 13th fret of the G string, okay? And then we're going to do this. That is the 14th to the 11th fret, which is the root to the natural 6. So back to the 5th, and then we're going like this. Now that's like a B sus4 type of thing, because you have the E, D sharp, and B as your operative notes. Now immediately coming out of that, we need to hit this fast ascending arpeggio line. So we're going B major, C sharp minor, D sharp minor, E major, and then bending at the 19th fret of the high E string to get up to the root note. The last section just requires some bendy bends in a B major pentatonic style, also including some more karate chops type stuff like that, and a huge chromatic scale that ascends and descends all the way into the pits of John Petrucci's bowels. So let's just take a real quick look at that. We start on the 14th fret of the high E string, bend up a whole step, come back down, pull off to the 11th fret. Now that's 5, 6, 5, 3 in terms of chord relations. And then we do this. So basically what you're doing there is you're hitting the 14th fret of the B string, which is actually the 9th of the chord. So you're on the C sharp, and you're bending and then karate chopping at the same time to get that type of sound, right? And then you hammer on and pull off from the 12th to the 14th into the root note. So it's pretty simple theoretically. Now this last part, you start on A sharp, and you do this massive chromatic type run, because not everything is totally chromatic here. But you are moving chromatically up the G string like that, and then you're actually going up a whole step. Going up to the 19th fret, until you finally hit the 19th fret of the high E string, which is the root, and then you come all the way down, back to the original note that you went to, which is the A sharp, 15th fret of the G, and then we come back up to the 18th fret and a descend, and then until we finally reach that C sharp. And let's not forget this.